What up, motherfucks? It's your boy, the hater, and it's gonna be a two-video date today. You know what I'm saying? One wrestling video as part of Hater Mania running wild. Subscribe today, cucks. And also this one video about the Grammys, right? A lot of people are mad at the Grammys. The two primary stories that I'm hearing here are number one, Bill Burr's jokes and how they offended some people. I heard the Bill Burr set, or not even a set, I guess, his commentary during the awards. And basically it hinges around the fact that he called the piano solo boring, right, more or less, and that he couldn't pronounce the name of some of the Latino Grammy people, right, because they have all these, like, Grammys that don't go on TV, and he was giving the awards for those, right, and he mispronounced the name of one of the girls, and he kind of made light of it. He pretended that, like he didn't give a shit, basically. Like, he made it seem as if, like, it doesn't matter if he can pronounce their names because who cares, right? And that, I thought that was kind of like not racist or anything like that, but it was a little dismissive, right? Because it's like this young girl, I don't know who she is or whatever, but, you know, this is like obviously a career achievement for her, and Bill Burr, like, takes opportunity to make fun of her. I love Bill Burr, of course. I agree with almost everything that he says generally. But this was a little bit like, it was like, you don't have to be a dick about it. You know what I mean? I understand the joke there was like, haha, like, I don't know her name. But it's like, for someone else, that's like a pretty big deal, you know, for this girl. So I didn't really like that part. But of course, all the criticism about Bill Burr, like, you know, he hit the nail right on the head when he said, like, people are going to be mad that, like, a white cis male is talking about, like, you know, Latino Grammys or whatever, right? Which was, of course, ridiculous. Who cares who the presenter is? It's not on TV. Now, the more interesting thing was the performance of the song WAP by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, right? WAP, which of course stands for Wet Ass Pussy, right? Now, first of all, this song is complete shit. All right, let's be real. I love my rap, you know what I mean? But this song is just garbage. Like, it's not just garbage in the sense of, like, the message behind it is stupid and vapid and depraved, and it has a lot of, like, just trashy tones to it. But the beat itself and the music itself just isn't good, you know? And here's how you know if music is good or if it's commercial garbage, right? The primary way that I determine this is how, just look at the lyrics. How are the lyrics being presented, right? Is it something that's vapid that anyone can do and it's shocking because of the subject matter? Or is it something that makes you think twice, right? Or is it the third category, neutral things, right? People sing about neutral things all the time. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of rock songs are about neutral things. A lot of rap is about neutral things. You know what I mean? Like being rich and things like that. Things that we all kind of want, right? Now, if music is overly sexual, right, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does indicate, in my opinion, that the music, the actual music behind it, is of an inferior quality, because it's like you have to hang your hat on this, right? This can be seen with virtually every young girl pop star, right? So it's like Britney Spears, not really like a fucking Beethoven or anything like that, you know, can probably hit a few notes. I'm not saying she's complete shit, but basically it's just her in skimpy outfits or in an overly sexualized manner, just saying a couple of things. The words aren't important. What's important is, like, the video, right? The video is what sells the music, you know? You can see this in other situations too, like the Gangnam Style guy, right? That song is like, it's a catchy tune, but it's like, none of us fucking speak Korean. It reached like 2 billion or whatever on YouTube. None of us give a shit about what he's saying, right? It's the visuals of it. The visuals of it are what made it interesting, you know? But if the visuals are sexual, this panders to the lowest common denominator, you know what I mean? Like, someone could go on stage and start whacking his bag and be like, this is a song about whacking your bag, right? But people are going to tune in because you're going to hear some fucked up shit. You're going to hear like, oh, a guy's whacking his bag. You know, what the fuck is that all about, right? It's the same thing that I did a few years, or not a few years ago, because I haven't been around for a few years. But when I put up a fake video suggesting that the video had nudes of male wrestlers, right? It's like, dude, the point, you shouldn't be searching wrestlers to see them nude, right? The medium has nothing to do with that. But if you do that, right, it panders to the lowest common denominator, you know? And WAP and Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are somehow seen as being empowering figures, right? Whereas, for example, in wrestling, the divas of yesterday are seen as being like degraded, and like the empowerment of women in wrestling has taken a different form. A form that a lot of people don't like, but a form that at least is more consistent with actual empowerment, right? Like the argument being that, like, let's say you're Becky Lynch, you're like, yo, I'm a wrestler. Becky Lynch is obviously an attractive girl, but the argument is, I'm a wrestler, so you should want to see me for what I do, which is wrestling, right? Not like, for example, Candice Michelle, who wasn't even that good looking, but she wasn't a wrestler. She was just there because she was supposed to be attractive. So that's kind of where this whole thing turns on its head, right? Like, people, the music industry, wants us to believe that this is some sort of empowering moment. Now, for those of you that didn't see it, I wouldn't recommend watching this performance because it was atrocious, right? First of all, the song is so explicit that the majority of the song, you know what I mean, has to be like censored. You know what I mean? So, like, there's that, right? The song has to be censored, you know what I mean? And thus, you cannot really enjoy the song. You can't hear the words, right? The visual part of it was complete debauchery. It was Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B like twerking on each other and doing what can only be described as simulated lesbian sex. Now, good for them, do it if you want. Like, a lot of people are holding this moral high ground of being like, this is unacceptable. This like is a deterioration of our culture, Like, were you saying the same thing when Jay-Z did Big Pimpin', which also is like debaucherous, but it's a good song, you know what I mean? And it's fun, and people like it, and nobody said anything to Jay-Z. I'm sure some people did, but the mainstream argument wasn't like, how dare these two girls simulate lesbian sex. I think that's a secondary issue. It is overshadowed by the primary issue. The fact that this was embarrassing. Like, it's not even that it was lewd or like, vapid. It was just embarrassing. Like, it's like the premise, the undertones were that like these two women are supposed to be these hot women, and that seeing this is supposed to stimulate viewers, especially male viewers. All I saw was two fat broads, right, who are not attractive, grinding on each other. That should be the real concern here. It's like, how low have we stooped when like the epitome of sexuality is just two BBWs, right? Two big broads, you know what I'm saying? They're not even beautiful, but two BWs, two big women, motherfuckers, two big women grinding on each other, like in the most unattractive way possible. It was like, one time I went to this place, right? I'm not gonna say what it's called, but I went to this place, and it was like a strip club, and I went during the day because I needed to make some change. And it was one of the only businesses that was open at the time in that area, right? So I needed to make some change. So I decided I'm gonna go, get a drink and get a couple of ones, because strip clubs give out ones, right? And I was gonna go do, continue the rest of my day, get a coffee, etc., etc. But I needed some change. I don't remember why. But I went, and it was pretty early in the morning. These strip clubs were open like 24/7, right? And I just see this girl. She was like a hippopotamus, right? It was this big broad just laying on the stage and just moving very minimally. You know what I mean? I understand there was like no one there. She was probably tired. I didn't care. I didn't care to look at her. I didn't care to do anything. I came in, I got my drink, right? This was during the time when I was drinking a lot, and I got my change and I moved on. This was many years ago, right? And I remember thinking like, nobody would ever find this attractive. And no one probably did because there was no one there, right? But the point I'm trying to make is this. It's like sexuality and these things that are supposed to be attractive are good if the people doing it are desirable people. Now, I'm sure there's people out there that think that Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B are like super hot, but I'm not one of those people. And I would surmise that most people don't think that, right? Like, if there was like, I don't know, like Beyonce, right? All right, I understand. Beyonce's an attractive woman, you know what I mean? Like, especially younger Beyonce. Now she's getting a little old. Or if it was like back in the day, Mariah Carey, or even now Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Britney Spears, Aguilera, all these girls that are supposed to be hot doing it, it would be like, oh, holy shit, that's pretty hot. It's like the two of the hottest women in the world are like, simulating lesbian sex. And then you could not justify the fact that the music is vapid and garbage, but you could be like, okay, I see why people are tuning in. I don't see why anyone was tuning into this. You know what I mean? I don't understand why anyone was clapping to this. Like, they're just pretending. It's like when that Lizzo broad shakes her ass and people like clap pretending she's attractive. Like, she's not attractive. We all know this, deep inside, we all know this. And when I say deep inside, I mean not even that deep. It's like on the surface, we know this is not an attractive thing. I don't want to see a 400-pound woman shaking her ass playing a flute. And I believe that nobody wants to see this. But for some reason, For some reason, this is some sort of empowerment of not just women, but of fat broads, right? It's like, oh, you don't care. I don't care if I'm fat because I play a flute, right? Good for you, sweetheart. Good for you, you know? All the power to you. I don't want to disparage anybody, you know what I mean? I have nothing against Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion. I think their music is garbage, right? But that's a personal opinion, you know? Apparently they do very well, they sell a lot, so good for them. But my concern isn't even that. My concern is, what are we pushing forward as acceptable, right? Not just in terms of music, but in terms of visuals. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not entertained by this in the slightest. Like, I was actually embarrassed. Like, if someone had footage of the hater at the Grammys, like clapping and cheering this on, I would be shamed of that. I would be like, what the fuck? There's no way that I could have been clapping for this. I am not this stupid, right? So that's the bigger concern here, in my opinion, right? It's not even the idea that, like, for some reason, this is like horrible, like lowbrow entertainment, which it is, of course, right? This is not, this isn't like any, good wordplay or anything like that, right? The song is trash, it's shit. It's like, I can't believe people like this. I mean, when there's actual good music to be made out there and to be heard, and don't get me wrong, motherfuckers. I'm not one of these like musical people that like says things like, oh, Beck is a great performer. I don't even know anything about Beck, right? I like mainstream things. I'm not one of these obscure guys who likes like, this like weird garage band and I pretend that they're like the highest form of music. I like pretty much mainstream things, I like rap. I like everything. I like country music. There's probably like songs from like 50 languages in my Spotify playlist. You know what I'm saying? I like what I like. You know what I mean? And I don't exclude anything unless the thing specifically is shit. I hear this, I'm like, this is garbage, right? And then within categories, I can have stricter, like considerations, right? So I hear like some new country song, I'm like, all right, this is like just shit. Like this is indistinguishable from the other songs, right? And then if I hear Garth Brooks, I like it. Same thing with rap. If I hear like Eminem or Nelly, which is the stuff that I grew up with, I'm like, oh, this is great, right? And if I hear one of these jabrones, like these new rappers, I'm like, this is trash, right? But for example, Bad Bunny, I don't really like his music, but I recognize that there is some talent there, that there is some appeal there, right? I can get it. I can get behind it. But this kind of stuff, I really do believe no one can get behind. And I honestly, I think that a lot of these people that are upset that this is like vapid and overly sexual, I think what they're really trying to say, I really believe this in my heart, I think their real concern is, yo, I don't want to see two fat broads doing this while some shitty music that they're lip syncing to plays in the background. I think that's the real concern. I don't think all of a sudden everyone became like a Puritan and is concerned with some overt sexual imagery, right? Because I don't see how this is any different than like Britney Spears videos in the late 90s. I don't see how this is any different than like a lot of rap songs throughout time, right? Like this is the kind of stuff that we see all the time. There's an Eminem video where the girl's like getting undressed, you know what I mean? And like in the uncensored version, she's like straight up naked, I think, So this is not new stuff, Like debauchery in music is not new stuff. It is, however, indicative of inferior music, obviously, right? If you need to hang your hat on people shaking their ass and talking about their genitals, then it's really stupid. And I will leave you guys with this. Consider this alternative. Instead of it being two women acting like lesbians, I guess, even though the song is about fucking guys, right? Instead of it being this, imagine if the hater made a song called Big Old Dick, right? B-O-D, Big Old Dick, you know what I'm saying? And I performed this, but instead of me going on stage and acting gay or whatever, right? I get like some hot girl and I simulate having sex with her while I sing about a song called Big Old Dick. How do you think that would go over compared to this? Would anyone say, oh, look at the empowerment, the sexual empowerment of the hater and whatever broad is in my song? Absolutely not. People would say it's misogynistic, it's this and that. And you know what? They would be right, because that is unacceptable. A person talking about their genitals and simulating sex is the lowest form of art. This is the literal equivalent of a person sitting in a chair in front of a sold-out crowd and just furiously whacking his bag while a shitty song plays in the background, But again, if you're into watching people whack their bag or doing simulated lesbian sex, go ahead. That's fine. If you're into shitty music, go ahead. That's fine. But I believe that a lot of the people that are, I don't even think they're pretending. I think they're internalizing it as like they're offended at like the sexuality of it. But I think really what they're offended at is just the experience. They see it and they're embarrassed they're ashamed, not for themselves, because I don't give a shit. I have no horse in this race, but I am ashamed for the people that like this. Like, I think it's embarrassing. Like, if someone came to me and said, hey man, did you see that? It was the greatest performance of my life. I'd be like, okay, this person must obviously be missing a chromosome or two. This person must be retarded, because there's nothing about this that could be found appealing by a normal person, let alone a hot-blooded male. No way that a man would look at this and be turned on. I'm like disgusted. I'm like, this is just flesh flapping up and down somehow. And I don't know what the point of it was. Wasn't attractive at all. None of them looked good even when they came out. Their rapping was shit. It was just garbage. So that's what I gotta say about that, motherfuckers.